Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Rearden.
There's an aspect of the mind that is something we're going to call transparency today. Transparency is just a fancy word for being fully aware of all the things that are happening, that can be happening, and being verbal about it. I am transparent, for example, with my life, sharing to you my stories of everything that happens, doesn't happen, to me, for me, whatever it be. And it's the good, the bad, the ugly, essentially. My life can be a storyboard for you to propel from, a springboard for you to propel from. And it could be a story that says, you know what, learning from someone, the wisdom aspect, so I don't make the same mistakes. And this is something I got early on from my father, because my father, he didn't read a bunch of books, and he was no businessman or anything, but he shared his worldly views, his ideas, his wisdom, essentially. Wisdom, in a sense, we talked about this podcast prior. I can't remember the episode, but just, go in the search, type in wisdom versus knowledge or one of those, and you can understand the difference. Wisdom aspect can be a powerful tool, but then it can also be a debilitating factor if it's not used in the correct way. Because another person's wisdom is not our own. Because if I don't want to listen to someone, for example, tell your kid, don't touch the stove. The stove is hot. That's wisdom, right? That's knowledge, baby, right? You don't buy or something. Well, you know what? That kid is going to say, I am going to touch that stove. I'm not going to listen to you, Mom. I'm not going to listen to you, Dad. I'm going to roll today. And I'm going to get burned. And sure enough, they get burned. And you're like, oh my God, what did I tell you not to touch the stove? And in their eyes and in their face and in their mind, they're like, I should listen. That's wisdom, man. Wisdom is understanding that other people might know something. But then that wisdom can also be the debilitating factor. If someone has tried something and they failed. For example, someone says that you can't do this because I've tried everything and it didn't work. And then sure enough, they do it, they win, and they succeed. Who was right, who was wrong? Should that person have listened to the person and said, I'm not going to do it because you couldn't do it? This is where limiting beliefs start to develop and form. But the transparent mind is looking at all the things that are going on, the opportunities, the challenges, whatever it be. And you start to be very clear what's happening. Because I want you to look at your life right now. Is your life a life that you are so proud of? A life that you enjoy waking up? You're like, oh my God, to wake up again, to live this life. This life is so wonderful and amazing. Or can it be Friday? Can it be payday? It doesn't sound like a life that is creating, has full transparency in it. Why? Because when you can get clear on what you want and how to do it, then you can start to wake up Monday morning and say, let's do this. Tuesday morning, let's go. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc. Every single day. You're not looking at a day for being more grander than something else, than another day. For me, every day is the same. And I'm not saying that every day that it doesn't bring some type of meaning or have some type of impact on my mind and my life. Monday, let's see what it's going to bring. Tuesday, let's see what's going to bring. Wednesday, it's going to see what's going to bring. There are certain things you plan for. There's certain things you allow life to present to you as a gift, right? I don't know how many people enjoy getting gifts that they know what's in the box. So like you get this beautifully wrapped gift. It's so beautifully wrapped, like better than what I can wrap because I don't wrap gifts good. If you ever got a gift from me, you would know it's from me because it's wrapping will be all messed up. And if you ever got a gift that's so beautifully wrapped, you're like, oh, this gift looks good. You're got a bow on it or something. Undo the bow, and sure enough, you get it, and it's a vacuum or a snow globe or something. You're like, what am I going to do with this? Oh, you're so happy. The curiosity. What is in this beautifully wrapped gift? Finally see it in its snow globe or something, right? Something that you don't need, something that you don't want. Sometimes that can be life. Promise for tomorrow is so nice. I'll do it later, I'll do it tomorrow, right? Maybe tomorrow's going to be Christmas or something. Tomorrow's my birthday. Tomorrow is the weekend, whatever, right? Tomorrow can bring something. And then maybe you get it and your day is not what it was. Your day is ruined. Maybe you got a flat tire. Maybe your hair is frizzled. Maybe your best friend was sleeping with your partner or something. There could be so many different things that go on that are going to take your mind away from looking at everything that can be laid out. Because if you can be very clear about what's happening in your life and be honest, then we can start to make some progress. I wrote this article here just to talk about that aspect, the transparent mindset, aligning your daily actions with your purpose. I talk about when you operate with a transparent mind, you recognize how your actions reflect your priorities, you acknowledge areas you may be wasting time or energy, you take deliberate steps to adjust your habits and behaviors. All of these things are going to help you become more transparent, of course. And then we have an aspect to how we can cultivate our day to be more transparent, because if we can win in the day starting off, then we can say, okay, I'm winning the day, or maybe you want to go to the moment first. Say when maybe your morning, maybe your afternoon, maybe your first hour waking up, right? You wake up, you say, I'm not going to go to my smartphone. You don't go to your smartphone. That could be a win, right? Maybe you go hit the snooze button. That's a 5-minute win right there. So there's certain things that you can do, right? So there's certain things you can track, or you can track your day, all aspects of it. Of course, there's going to be ideas that you have to look at. So this is where a coach comes in, tracking your day, identifying your priorities. That's easy. You don't necessarily need a coach for that. But some people don't even know their purpose for living. So if you are one of these people who don't know your purpose, probably need a coach, probably need some guidance. Now, this is a PUS series. So again, this is for people who have strong mindsets, people who are already go-getters, people who do what they to do. And then we are going to be looking at the finer details. And this is where I find many people get stuck. Because if you have a distraction, what type of distraction is it? Because a phone what kind of distraction is a phone? A phone is typically a bad distraction, right? It takes you away from your workflow. Now, I understand you might need to talk to your kids or something. Maybe something's going on. You need your phone, right? You need to be able to get, call or a text message. People need to be able to have access to you. That need access to you. You shouldn't just give everyone access to you, because guess what? They're going to do things and they're going to be getting in your way of your greatness, right? It might seem like, well, why would someone try to get in the way of my greatness? Some people don't want to see other people win, right? Some people just say, you know what? If I can keep you down, it'll make me feel better. And people don't want to see people doing better, because when there's a growing factor, right? So if you have two people, they're the same, and then one person grows a little bit, the other person stays the same. Then that person keeps on growing, and that other person that's down here is like, hey, what's going on up there? You left me, you changed. Reality was, if you have a friend or something, a colleague, or a person in your life, if you grow, they should say, oh, they're growing, let me grow too. And it should be that continual, that continuing factor of, I'm going to keep on growing, versus, well, I'm just going to stay here where I'm comfortable. We have to eliminate distractions, whether it be people, whether it be phones, things along those lines, or bad habits, all the things that don't bring us good in our life, essentially. So we have to create clear intention, right? What is that intention, right? Are you trying to, create a life with more meaning? Are you trying to work on your relationships? Are you trying to get ahead in your career? And one of the things that we work on when we're trying to to get someone to change their life is to build a foundation that they need. Then we start to look at the distractions, things that are getting in the way, the hiccups. But clear intention is so powerful. Maybe it should be, closer to the top when I think about it. If we don't get rid of the distractions, the intentions don't matter, essentially. If we don't look at our priorities, our intentions are not going to matter because we're just going to kind of be going in a direction. Think of if you have a child or something, or a child just in general, just take a child and there's a parent and the parent wants something for from their child. I want my child to be a doctor. I want my child to be, an engineer or whatever, right? That's the parent's way for the child. That's the worst thing a parent could do for the child. A parent should have no, career expectations for their child, passions, etc. Now, there's things that a parent should do for their child. For example, get them coaching, swim lessons, soccer, football, basketball, some type of martial arts. This is mandatory growing up for children. If they don't have this, they don't have structure. They need different expectations from different adults. They have to get a different perspective than just mom and dad. Because if you don't get a different perspective, you're just going to be living in, okay, mom, dad want me to do this, and you do it because that's what you think you have to do, and you find that you're not happy. So many of the reasons why kids are not happy and healthy is because parents didn't give their kids enough runway, in a sense, and then give them all the mentorship they need along the way. I can't imagine a kid who had strong mentors growing up turning a bad leaf. Because me growing up in the ghetto in the hood, if I didn't have mentors, if I didn't have good teachers, if I didn't have good coaches, I would not be who I am today. And I'm not saying that all these people were phenomenal, but they taught me a lesson. We're going to be talking about that, later, talking about the perception aspect to things. If we are trying to, make our life more, we have to see what our life is bringing and what our life is not. And then, the last bit of it is we are reflecting and adjusting. And with all these aspects, we can say, okay, well, now I can be transparent of my life and what needs to be done. Because many people, when it comes to life, they will love to throw things under the rug, throw things in the closet, say, I'll do it later. I'll do it another time. I'll give it to someone else to worry about. I can't be worried about this. I can't be concerned about this. All these different things might seem like they're a good flex at the time, but the reality is taking away from what you can become. Are you clear with who you want to be yet? And so that is where we need to go. Who do you want to be and how do we get there?
Now, one of the first things I do when I think about that question, I say, what do I need to be clear on? What do I need to bring some clarity into this? It could be about anything. So think about something that you would like to be more transparent in. Maybe it's your relationships, your friendships, your business, money, finances, etc., right? Whatever it be. If you want to be transparent, you want to be clear, you want to be a looking glass or a window, essentially, so people can see and they can say, this makes sense. And it's so funny because when I talk to people I've known for some time, marketers, etc., and they look at my persona, and sometimes I like to say, I'm the villain. And they're like, you're not the villain. And I'm like, I would rather be the villain. If you look at the hero and the villain, and the hero being, confined to his responsibilities and his destiny, versus a villain who can just kind of do what he wants, and he's not necessarily defined by his destiny. He creates it. You might say, well, hero can create his destiny too, right? He creates his legacy. Now, legacy and destiny, we can have a whole episode on that. But today, essentially just talking about transparency. And who do you want to be? Transparency. Do you want to be maybe a good, loving husband and father? Maybe you want to be some of the best workers, right? And, in your company. So you have to look at, okay, well, am I the best worker today? And I know this, there's an aspect to competition, but this is something that you have to be transparent at. Where are you strong? Where are you weak? This is something that you have to look at, because if you don't look at it, how can you turn your weaknesses into strengths? Because if you're not good at public speaking right now, for example, when I started the podcast, I go back to episode 1. Okay. You're not going to want to listen to it all the way, right? And if you do, thank you for being a supporter. Episode 1 is very different than episode 500 plus, because the quality of the sound, how I audio engineer stuff now. I took away background noise that I didn't even know was there because I had to get better headphones. All of these things might not seem like a big deal, right? Was I can look at it and I can look at the disparity between the two. And so, or discrepancy, I can say, you know what? Here was not as good. Here is a lot better. Happy to say that episode 1 is not better than episode 500. You know, I messed up like on 502 or something like that, but this is all a learning process for me. Every day I'm learning is a process. And so my mind, when I'm becoming more transparent with this whole aspect, is this. If I want to keep doing this, if I want to keep having the podcast and I want to keep having Reven concepts, coaching individuals, groups and organizations, I need to become extremely transparent. And what is the goal? Now, the goal can be money. For some people, it will be. The goal can be helping, right? You just have this good, helping heart, and you just want to help people. You want to change the world, etc. And then you have to look at, to what degree? How many people? So one person, is it 10 people? Is it 100, 1,000, a million, a billion, whatever it be, right? You figure out all these little things that need to be presented for you to say, okay, this is what it is. And at the end of everything, it should be on a piece of paper. I know this paper's got a bunch of stuff written on it, but you should be very clear on what you need to do. So I encourage people, this is like a brainstorm. What I do with all new clients typically, I say, let's brainstorm. People who do not know what they want to get out of life, we need to brainstorm, because they might have inklings. I used to be a good artist. I used to be a good football player. I don't have time. They have all of these things, right? And so we brainstorm. We think of possibilities for maybe a different career, maybe a different method for parenting, or for how you're approaching your company. There's many different things depending on the topic, right? So we can't be necessarily clear on what you're working on unless I'm working with you and on that one topic that you're looking at. Now, just because we work on one topic doesn't mean that we can't work on another topic too. So when we get said and done with one, we can move on to the next and the next, and we can become very clear on everything we want to do. What type of person do you want to be? This is your character, essentially. And sometimes your character is not so much about what you think, or, and your character is not always so much of what you think or who you think you are, but rather what other people think of you. Because people might say you're a jerk. And guess what? You might think you're the sweetest person in the world. You might say, I don't know how people could not live without me. And sure enough, people just can't get enough of you, right? You're too much for them, right? If you called out sick, they would be happy. If you couldn't make it into an event, they would rejoice. They would have a sigh of relief, right? And I hope this is not you. I hope you are a person that's the life of the party, that when you're around people, people love to have you around. But if you are just kind of going through life with this delusion that, it's this way, not that way, or it's my way or the highway, guess what? There's not transparency. That's creating a facade, perhaps an ego that doesn't suit you, that doesn't bring about much benefit beyond your teen years. Because you can have a big ego in your teen years as long as you go listen to your mentors and your coaches. Typically, you're going to come out on the other end with a positive note. Of course, when you're early 20s and you're done with college, if you go to college, you're going to have to get rid of that ego if you haven't already done so. because there's certain things at certain age groups and times of development or stages of development that will benefit you. And ego is a powerful thing when you're a teen. It is so powerful because it helps you create your identity. And then you have to tear down the identity in order to create your true identity. So it's almost like you create a facade of this identity because you're thinking about, what do other people want? How can I make my friends like me and my parents like me? And make, so it feels like, okay, this is right. Versus, what do I want to do? Let's create transparency in that. So many people, when it comes to being clear on what they want to do, they don't know. Their why, their purpose, their passion is almost like, I don't know. I never thought about it. The reality is, you didn't think of it, but you didn't look at it through a clear lens. You didn't look at it with a fine tooth and comb because you said, you know what, I'm just going to kind of move through things. And so you move, and it's great, but it's not what you needed. You needed to be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror. How are you? And I'm not just talking about like, how do you feel? Truly, how are you? Are you satisfied with who you are, who you're becoming? Maybe you look at yourself and you're a mess. You feel like a disgrace. You feel terrible in your skin. And I don't want you to stay in that emotion because those are negative emotions and they're not going to bring about much positive results unless you're, have a very strong mindset. For example, like David Goggins or something along those lines. He looked in the mirror. He's like, you're a slob. You need to change your life. And basically, that's what he did. It's not going to work for everyone. Some people, they just need to become very clear on what they have, what they don't have, and what they would like to get. Because for certain people, they're going to look at your life for what you would like to get, and they're going to say, you don't need that. You shouldn't do that. Everyone is so worried about what you want to do or what you will be doing versus what they're doing. This is why people love drama. The brain is naturally attracted to negative. People will watch Love and Hip Hop and Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I don't really keep up with all the series. Okay, so forgive me for using old ones. Bachelor, Bachelorette, Flavor Flav, or whatever it was. All of these things, like me growing up, is full of drama because the people who are creating these shows understand people love drama. They're just naturally attracted to it. And so we're going to give people as much drama and as much of, what's going on in the world to them as quick as possible so they can get overloaded. And so when they get overloaded, they become less clear on what they want to do because there's just so many options. Just because there's so many options, it doesn't mean that you have to just stick with one thing and you can't do everything. But I will say this. If you get clear on what you need to do, and you really sat down and you said, do I want to be a plumber? Yes or no, right? Most people don't want to be plumbers. Now, I understand plumbing can make a lot of money. But just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you're going to make a lot of fulfillment. You're going to get a lot of fulfillment. You're going to be happy. Lawyers, same thing. Doctors, same thing. People who go into these professions might not continue. And it's not because they don't love what they have been doing. It's because they just weren't clear on what the entirety of what they were planning to do was. I was a teacher before. I couldn't imagine not being a teacher when I was teaching. I just love teaching. But then, with everything that has happened, I wouldn't have been a teacher. Even if I left and I stayed in, I wouldn't have left teaching in 2019 because of the pandemic, 2020. So the clock was ticking. My future was already predetermined. It was either for me to wait until a later date, 4 years down the road, or me to say, you know what, let's make the change today. And so I said, I'm going to make the change today because I understand there's a missing piece to the puzzle and I want to make sure that the puzzle becomes complete. But I had to be very clear on what I wanted. And I can't tell you how many pages I wrote in the journal, is writing in general, trying to get what my mind wanted to do. And eventually I found it. It wasn't easy. It took so much time, so many sessions of coaching and things along those lines, so many conversations with friends trying to figure out what it was that was for me. Some people, when it comes to creating a life of transparency, it's almost like a debilitating thing because they have to pay attention to the things that they haven't been doing. And it's like looking at your life as a proponent of all the things you are and all the things you're not. So if you have a life that's not meaningful right now, it's because you are giving your life no meaning. You are not doing what needs to be done. You are allowing distractions to take a hold of you. You are not prioritizing what needs to be done. All of the steps written here on this blog, TUS Part 69, the transparent mind, aligning your daily actions with your purpose. All of these are going to help you create the intentions and help you adjust to where you need to be in your lives. Now, I understand that just because, we have this beautifully laid out in this article, it doesn't mean that you're going to automatically start to say, you know what, I'm going to become very clear on what I want to do and I'm going to be honest with myself all the time. The reality is it takes time to accept what you don't want to accept, because sometimes a comforting lie is more powerful than, the debilitating truth. So many people will sugarcoat things. Many people will ask for, the soft approach. They don't want everything at once. Bite-sized pieces. But when you have to be very clear with yourself, it is better just to rip off the Band-Aid. I understand some people's like, I don't want to feel it or whatever. Well, rip the Band-Aid off. Rip that sucker off. Be clear on what needs to be done. Look in the mirror, right? To say, what's going on. And this is not to belittle you or to make you feel a certain way. This is to empower you to say that you can make a change. And that's right. You can make the change. Not everyone will. If you can make that change and become more clear and transparent on all the things that you are doing, all the things that you're not doing, and all the things that you would like to be doing, then the life that you would like to be having will come sooner rather than later. And it just begins with being very clear and transparent, not only with yourself, but the world that's paying attention to you, will find you for call.